All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. I appreciate you all tuning in. In this episode, as we've been doing the entire off season, and as we get ready for camp to begin in about a couple of weeks, it's crazy to say that time's already coming. As we prep here, we have been talking about individual Yankees and going through their past and what's to expect of them in the upcoming season here. We've just been kind of randomly jumping around with episodes throughout the off season, throughout the wintertime, because what else is there to talk about with the Yankees? Since they don't have money, since they don't have prospects, they only have maybe 5 in the top 100 of baseball, and they can't make moves because there's such a, struggling mid-market. There's nothing else to talk about since they didn't do anything. So we have been talking about just the expectations of some of these guys, and we've jumped around. We've went all around starting pitching, rotation, or relief pitching, and the infield, the outfield, just kind of randomly talking about certain guys, and that's what we're going to do in this show. Because in this show, or for a bit, I should say, I've been wanting to get to this guy who, when the Yankees went out and got him last year, man, I was so excited. One of the funner arms to watch in baseball, and it was in a time where the Yankees were desperately in need of a jolt. And they had already been struggling up to this point. So it was kind of a dull day. And I believe they were playing the Rays or the Marlins. It was the Marlins, I think, because I remember that night of. But before that, they just lacked any punch. And so they made a trade on deadline day for 3 different relievers. But this reliever was kind of the last minute. It was right before 4 o'clock. We got this name, and you found out they traded for Camilo Doval. And again, I was excited. Every Yankees fan was excited for the move. Obviously, that Marlins game happens where every acquisition they made just makes their own mistake. They struggle. But some of them bounce back. David Bednar. Jake Bird got demoted. Ryan McMahon struggled. Camilo Doval was probably the one who struggled the most. He comes here as an arm that's supposed to be a big part of the bullpen, and he has issues, with walks, balks, pitch clock violations, command problems. Posts a 4.82 ERA with a 1.61 whip across 22 outings with the Yankees. Has a good appearance in the postseason against Toronto or against Boston, I think it was. Has a bad postseason when they lose in that clinching game against Toronto. But as much as he struggled, and as maddening as he could be, and we're going to talk about that stuff, I don't know if anybody knows, Camilo Doval is, really good. He's quietly just being tossed aside right now because of how shit he was last year, and that's understandable to be a little down and skeptical about him. But people forget very quickly, especially in New York City. This is I'm talking about an extremely talented pitcher with a very live arm. Somebody who's had a very good career. He's 5 big league seasons in. He's never had an ERA, or only one time he's had an ERA above the 3s. So in 4 of his 5 big league seasons, that thing is in the 3s or lower. He's got a career 3.39 ERA in 286 and 2/3 innings with 354 strikeouts and a 1.28 whip. And even despite the struggles he had last season, you combine everything, San Fran and the Yankees, 3.58 and 65 1/3. He's been an all-star before, not too far along. It was 2023, his third big league season with the Giants. Led the league in games finished, led the league in games saved. Last year, I just think a lot of it was, yes, the usual issues with him, but he also had to adjust to a new role and into a new environment. You're talking about somebody who came from a mediocre fringe contender out west who ended up missing the playoffs and then having to come onto the East Coast in the middle of a pennant race for the New York Yankees during the most difficult stretch of the baseball season. And, it's not just that. He comes here and it's, hey, you're no longer a closer. You're not going to be pitching in the 9th inning anymore, but you're going to be our setup guy. We're going to throw you out there in the 7th and the 8th instead. It's not easy to adjust to that. And I just think the overreactions to, an 18-inning sample, that's what it is. It's an 18-inning sample. So you're forgetting about, 90, 95% of his other, of his major league career. I just feel like he's way too talented to give up on. A lot of Yankees fans, DFA him, trade him in the offseason. I think it's a little over the top to go to that extreme. A lot of Yankees fans saying he's the next Chapman, the next Devin Williams. Success, but he comes here and it's very erratic. But again, talking about a pitcher with a live, high-octane arm, with great velocity, great stuff. He's just 28 years old, and he's still on team control money for 2 more seasons. When he is right, and I'm serious when I say that, when Camilo Doval is right, he is every manager's dream for a relief pitcher because of the combination that he has to induce high ground ball rates while inducing high strikeout rates. He does not give up a lot of fly balls, which, I don't know if you know this, it's kind of perfect for Yankee Stadium, given the fact that he's going to pitch here for half his games next year. The major league average for ground balls is 44%. The major league average for strikeout is 22%. Camilo Doval, over the course of his career, 56% ground ball rate, that's 12% better than average. 29% K rate, that's 7% better than average. Last season, he was in the 91st percentile in ground ball rate, 71st or 74th percentile in K rate. So the stuff is filthy. You look at his Baseball Savant StatCast chart, the whole thing's red, besides walk rate, which again we'll talk about. But the expected numbers, the velocity, the exit velo, the chase rate, the whiff rate, the K rate, the barrel rate, everything is red. It's got the pitch mix. Talking about a 3-pitch pitcher to both lefties and righties. Last season, he was 48% slider. That was the most pitch, or the one pitch he used the most. Equal usage and equal effectiveness to both righties and lefties. The splits aren't far enough apart to really read them apart, or to really read these numbers off, so I'm not gonna, but slider's his best pitch. That's his put-away pitch. A 124 stuff plus on that pitch last year. 129 stuff plus career. That's insane numbers. To be 20 to 30% better in your slider than your league average slider. Going to dive into some of the more analytics here really briefly. Very, very good break on the slider. Both drop and horizontal movement. It got 2.8 more inches of horizontal break than your average righty slider did. It got 2.1 more inches of drop than your average righty slider did. I mean, that's really good. Very good spin. It gets more than 2,600 RPMs on it. Threw that pitch last year at 89 miles an hour. It's almost 3 miles an hour harder than your average righty slider. Gets tons of swing and miss with it. It's the one pitch that he uses that gets the most, that gets swing and miss. His other two pitches don't get a lot of swing and miss, but this one, I mean, 41% whiff rate last year. It's always over 40% year to year. When they do make contact, it's very weak contact, like we said, but the slider yields 86 miles an hour in exit velo. Always sits in the 80s year to year. Lots of ground ball contact. Last year generated 2 degrees of launch angle. So that just means a lot of guys are swinging over the top of it. They either miss it or they hit it right into the dirt. And the numbers on it are very good. If you're into WOBA, weighted on base average, just basically shows the most accurate way to evaluate offensive production. That slider last year, 256 WOBA, 249 expected WOBA. League average sits 315. So, really good. The cutter, 40% usage on it last year, the second most in his arsenal. Uses it, again, equally to both sides of the plate, righties and lefties. It's an interesting pitch because it's not as effective as you want it to be for how well it profiles. You know, it profiles pretty well. It gets very good spin. Get 2,500 RPMs or more. Has elite velocity. I mean, this is the pitch he throws the hardest, 98 miles an hour on average last year. That's 8 miles an hour harder than your average right-handed cutter. You've seen this thing top out at 103. You've seen him throw it in triple digits. I mean, it's got just insane heat behind it. And to get the movement that he gets on it with that velocity is kind of wild. But what makes it even more intriguing is that it gets like this gyro movement on it. It's less of a cutter and it's more of this two-seamer. When you look at the action that he gets 2.8 inches of tail. So it actually runs glove side. Now that can work against him at times. You know, if it backs up into the middle of the plate against the righty, that could be punished, as we've seen. But it's an interesting pitch because it's more of a gyro pitch. But that's why I think part of the reason why the effectiveness is not really there consistently enough. Because if you look at the WOBAs and the expected WOBAs, it's usually worse than league average. Same thing last year. He just had a 17% whiff rate on it last year, which it's not high at all. Gets pretty low exit velos, but they do hit it in the air pretty decently. Average launch angles on it. It's just a pitch that he needs to fix the location on more than anything. Because, again, it profiles as a pretty good pitch. But when you're trying to locate that pitch, given the way it moves, you kind of just need to be smart with it. And then he throws a sinker. He used it 12% of the time last year, the third most. Equal usage, equal effectiveness to both sides. It's a really good pitch that I think personally he should lean into a little bit more, especially knowing the Yankees and the way they work with two-seamers, one-seamers, sinkers, and the grips on those sinkers. You know, Matt Blake does a nice job getting guys to tap into that pitch, but it doesn't have your traditional two-seam tail, but it's got excellent sink. 2.3 inches more sink than your average righty sinker. In years prior, it's been even more, but I mean, he throws it hard, 97 miles an hour, gets good spin. It's in play for weak contact, so even though he doesn't miss a lot of bats with it, gets weak contact, ground ball contact, it's a sinker. So I just think, being this pitch is, being that it's a lot better than his cutter results-wise while still profiling pretty elite, there's no way it should be used that much less, And it's not like he uses it and gets results with a small sample, he still uses it 12% of the time. So I would like to see him tap into that a little bit more, especially against lefties. You know, he did struggle a little more against lefties last year than usual. But yeah, he is just a tough pitcher to hit. You know, he may, you know, listen, if you're facing Camilo Doval, you might be able to draw a walk on him, but you're not going to hit him, especially right on right. You know, he's got a career 217 batting average against. Last year, 214 batting average against on him. Righties have a 587 OPS on them in their career. Last year, that was 652. But, I mean, just looking at him, for someone who throws this hard, but doesn't throw a four seam, doesn't throw anything straight really, and can be wild at times, that's actually tough to hit that kind of pitcher because of the unpredictability. And then you add in the crazy arm action, the wicked delivery, the arm slot. You know, he throws that thing damn near sidearm. It is tough to pick that up. So obviously all that can work against him, right? Because he doesn't throw a four seam, because of the crazy mechanics, because he gets a lot of break, he will miss the zone. He will walk some guys. You can't have a 13% walk rate again. That can't happen. That's one thing that cannot happen. And the career walk rates on this guy are as insane as some of the positive stuff. Just going through year to year here, he was 15th percentile in walk rate as a rookie, then went to 35th, first percentile, third percentile. So he walks the ballpark. His location plus numbers are also consistently mediocre. 96 location plus in his career. 99 location plus last year. Just makes you wonder if what he was doing earlier in his career when he won an all-star appearance is still sustainable. He has to work on it. You know, I mean, like Fernando Cruz. Frustrating player. A lot of Yankees fans are very up and down on him, despite the good value, you know, contract-wise. He's still very volatile because he walks a lot of guys, and you've seen the stuff. And you're pairing him with Fernando Cruz, right? So it's like, can those guys be trusted? Can Camilo be trusted in a setup role? Should he start the season out lower leverage earlier in the game? You know, should the Yankees, I think they should get another relief pitcher, somebody who they can trust just to make Camilo's life a little easier. You know, it's tough because he's now relied on that much more since the Yankees didn't really touch the pen. And I know that with the starting pitching depth they got and with some of the moves they made, Weathers, you can be more flexible in your bullpen and some of the guys they got coming back later in the year. I get that. So that does help. But things don't always go as planned, and I still feel like they should get more pitching just so Camilo Doval can be in a more comfortable role, because the rotation will get banged up even further once spring training hits. You know that. So the pen's going to be relied on a lot. And he's one of the few big names in the pen. It's still a bullpen with project arms and journeymen when you look up and down. It's a shallow pen, so you're going to be looking at him as a guy late in the innings to help you out and get you out of jams and escape. And, you know, for a guy with command issues, it's a little scary. So that's pretty much it. We're going to wrap this one up here. Not going to head to a break or anything like that. But I'm excited for Camilo. I think he's got all the talent in the world to make it right. And I think Yankees fans, all I'm saying here is should give him a chance at least longer than 18 innings. So let me know what you think. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you all very soon. Go Yankees. Hey guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.